So I think now it's possible that others might join us, because I'm looking at the number of participants that have joined. I know we have got more people registered, but it looks like we are nearly at full attendance. So good morning and welcome to our UKRI webinar on our long form open access policy. And thank you very much for joining us today for this webinar. Just to go through, well, first off, I'll say who I am. So I'm Head of Open Research at UK Research and Innovation, and you'll see on the screen, I'm called Rachel Bruce. So I've been leading the team and development of the open access policy. The policy that we're focusing on today is, as I say, long form publications, and that includes monographs, book chapters and edited collections. We announced the policy way back in August 2021, but of course the policy starts in January 2024. So the purpose of the event today, which I should say, so you're all aware, is being recorded, and that recording will be made available online via our website, is to share the latest information around policy implementation for the long form open access policy. So we will cover the guidance and processes around the policy, and as far as possible information around the ring-fence central fund that has been allocated to support the long form policy. And after a presentation from colleagues Tahir and Sarah, there'll be an opportunity for you to ask questions after that presentation. And then we will have a short break, hoping we're all running to time. And we will hear from the Jisc team, who are working with us and the sector in supporting the implementation of open access monographs, book chapters and edited collections. I would imagine that most people here are aware that we have supported Jisc with a grant in order to help the support and implementation of the policy for the first, well, they've been working on the articles policy and now obviously transferring their efforts more to long form for the first couple of years since policy start date. So a couple of points of housekeeping. So captions have been enabled, I understand, and if you have any issues around the event or anything, please can you message Laura Bennett, who is helping support the arrangements on the event, in the chat. So if you need anything addressed functionality wise, it's Laura Bennett. Please send a message to her. So in terms of affiliations and names, it would be really useful if you can go into your Zoom and make sure that you've got your name and affiliation listed. That's always very helpful. And obviously here we want to be able to hear from you, and I should say thank you to those that on the registration form highlighted particular issues that you would like to be addressed in the webinar. But we have a Q&A function, and so that is the place to pop your questions. And when we get to the panel Q&A session, then my colleague Emma Devine will relay some of those questions, and we shall answer. Where we are in terms of, obviously it depends, we don't know how many questions we'll get. We may not be able to cover all of them. We will try and cover a range from a variety of different topics, and where there are things that are outstanding, should that happen after the event, I know it did last time when we had a webinar on articles, we will send a response to those issues round to all participants, along with a link to the I can't speak, to the recording of the event. Right, there we go. Gosh, don't know why that couldn't come out. And thank you. Phil has put in the chat a link which mentions the REF 2028 announcement. So you might want to take a look at that after this webinar that you'll be engaged in, of course, if you haven't seen it already. So without further ado, I shall hand over to my colleagues Sarah Ball and Tahir Zaidi to cover the presentation on our policy implementation.
Thanks, Rachel.
Sarah.
Yes, and I think, Tahir, are you sharing slides? Thank you. Just while Tahir's doing that, I'll introduce myself. So my name's Sarah Ball. I work with Rachel as part of the open research team in UKRI on the open access policy. So working on the general implementation, also on some specific work streams around monitoring and evaluation, and also technical standards for research articles. And I'll hand over to Tahir to introduce herself.
Hello everyone, my name is Tahir Zaidi and I am Senior Strategy Advisor at UKRI, and I work with Sarah on implementing the open access policy, particularly focusing on the policy requirements for monographs, book chapters and edited collections.
Thanks, Tahir. So just to quickly cover what the presentation will go over. So firstly, just start with a bit of background. So I'll cover that. Then I'll pass over to Tahir to talk about the latest guidance and resources. Moving on to exemptions and then funding, and then Tahir will pass back to me to briefly cover next steps. So if we go to the next slide, please, Tahir. Yeah, so on background, so basic to say that open research and open access to publications is a long-held commitment in the UK, and this was recently reiterated in the government documents, so the UK R&D roadmap, as well as the people and culture strategy. And really the aim is here that the public has the right to expect that research innovation supported by the public purse has the maximum possible impact. Next slide, please, Tahir. So open access, as well as open research in general, is a key priority for UKRI, and really we recognise the benefits, many benefits, and this includes increasing the opportunity for researchers, practitioners and others to access, use and build on research, improving the reach and potential impact of research findings, improving research efficiency, quality, integrity and trust by facilitating collaborative, transparent and reproducible research practices, and finally, ensuring access to publicly funded research, which delivers value for money for taxpayers. Next slide, please, Tahir. So the new open access policy for long form outputs is a result of the open access review. And the aim of the review was to really update our requirements, so building on the RC UK policy. So for articles, that meant moving to immediate open access. And for long form outputs, that meant extending the existing requirements to include long form outputs for the first time. And this really built on the work of the sector, including Universities UK, Coordination Group for Open Access Monographs. And this was the position that was consulted on in the consultation document that you can see there. And there's further information on the review and how we came to our policy decision on our web pages, and the link is provided there. So next slide, please, Tahir. So just to briefly go over the policy itself. So it applies to monographs, book chapters and edited collections from next year. And they must be available open access within 12 months and any Creative Commons license is permitted. And the policy recognises two routes to compliance, and this can be via the version of record or the author's accepted manuscript. Next slide, please, Tahir. So now that we've announced our policy, we've been working really hard on implementation, and this has taken an evidence-based approach and a very consultative approach as well. So just to highlight a few examples of our activities in this area. So for as part of the review, we had the public consultation, and whilst that focused on the policy itself, there were some areas that emerged from the public consultation, which has really helped inform our implementation approach. So for example, one element was Sherpa for books, which Jisc will cover in their presentation. Another area which emerged was a lack of awareness around copyright, and this has really helped inform our approach in terms of developing some guidance there. We also held roundtables and workshops. So firstly, after the policy was announced, bringing a wide range of stakeholders together to hear about the issues with implementation, and then moving on to workshops on specific policy questions, including exemptions and funding. And then finally, just another example, we get many queries and feedback. So for example, through our inbox, which is really helpful in understanding the practical issues that authors and research organisations are dealing with when thinking about implementation. So that's been really helpful to inform our approach, and as well as sort of responding to that by updating our FAQs and our guidance documents online. So those are just a few examples of our implementation approach. And next slide, please, Tahir. I think I'm handing over to Tahir now to talk about guidance and resources.
Thank you very much, Sarah. So earlier, at the end of May, we published some guidance and resources to help compliance with the open access policy. And on this slide, I've just listed a few of the ones that we've published. So we've got the updated policy document and supplementary FAQ. So in the policy document, we've actually added new information. We've added new information at Annex 1 and published a whole new annex at Annex 3 to help researchers manage the exemptions to the policy. And we've published new FAQs that would help people comply with the policy as well, specifically focused on book chapters, monographs, and edited collections. We have published a whole new guidance page for authors. And it's called Making Your Monograph Book Chapters or Edited Collections Open Access. And it goes through the steps that authors should take and our expectations in UKRI authors should be taking in order to comply with their policy, with our policy. We've also got an information pack on research for research organisations. This was something that we published back when we implemented the research article side of the policy, and now we've updated it and included lots of new information in there about what to do to try to make your monograph book chapter edited collection open access. And we've designed this and drafted this in a way that research organisations, the staff therein who are responsible for implementation of the policy, can actually take that and then cascade that or add additional guidance that is relevant to their organisation to cascade messages to researchers. And then we provided information on funding and reporting. We'll go through some of the information on the fund today in our slide. And then finally, we also have some guidance and resources on our Good Research Resource Hub as well. This is general guidance around open research in other areas as well. I just want to also bring everyone's attention to this long form publications checklist. So in the information pack that I mentioned earlier, towards the end, we've got a checklist for long form publications. And if you're looking for like a one-stop shop for what it is that you need to do in order to comply with the policy, or what one needs to tell researchers or authors what they need to do to comply with UKRI's policy, that this is the document to look at. Now just moving on quickly to the exemptions to the policy. We have taken a very permissive approach, and the policy is quite lenient. And so we've permitted a few exemptions in our policy. So I'm just going to quickly go through what some of these are. We've got, we permit we allow an output to be exempt from the policy where the only appropriate publisher for that publication is not able to offer an open access program. We permitted this exemption to allow authors to publish in the most appropriate venue for their publication. And so this is very much we've included this in a policy to support author choice. We've also allowed an exemption where reuse permissions for third-party materials cannot be obtained, and there's no suitable alternative. So we recognise that third-party materials, they're very important to the publication, and in non-inclusion of these can sometimes compromise the findings, discussions, and arguments that the author is trying to make. So we've permitted this exemption as well. There's also a blanket exemption where there is where the publication itself is a trade book, because we recognise that our research publications that have wide commercial potential, and so will be disseminated in that way. And we also allow an exemption where the publications arise, a long form publication arises from training grants. And finally, one for where a contract has been signed before the policy implementation date of the 1st of January 2024. And this is really because we know that contracts are signed well in advance of the book being produced or published. And in many cases, there will be people who are publishing an output in 2024 that was contracted before UKRI even announced its policy. So we've included this exemption for practicality. We've published some information on how to invoke those exemptions. So I just want to go over that in a little bit of detail. So the process for managing an exemption is going to be self-managed. It is going to be trust-based. We've provided guidance in our policy annexes about what the researchers and the research organization should be doing. And we expect that, that the organization and the author would be making a good faith effort to try and comply with that guidance, consider it, and use their discretion to determine if an exemption applies to the relevant output. You don't need to seek permission from UKRI. You don't need to seek approval when you're making that decision. We've given you the guidance so that you are empowered to do so. But we are, however, considering any notification process to try and understand how the policy is being implemented, so we can give better guidance should we need to in future, and try to improve practice and understand what the practical issues are. So just in the table here, I've just put a summary in for what we expect authors and research organizations to do. So for example, for the first two there about the appropriate publisher where reuse permissions can't be obtained, we would expect that you look at Annex 3 and only use this exemption as a last resort. For trade books, at Annex 1, we've expanded some information there for considerations that might inform you if your publication or if a publication is a trade book, and authors should definitely inform their research organization if their publisher is treating their monograph or edited collection as a trade book. And then finally, on the training grants and the contract, these are blanket exemptions. We do encourage open access, but it's not required. Now, moving on to open access funding. So from autumn of this year, we are going to make available a ring-fenced fund to support open access costs for monographs, book chapters, and edited collections. This is £3.5 million fund per annum, so per year, 3.5 million, not 3.5 million over 5 years or something like that. And this fund is for publications that are in scope of the policy. The fund is going to be centrally held by UKRI, and organizations will need to apply to us to access it. And we are going to support a variety of different publishing models to support open access via this fund. And this could include book processing charges, chapter processing charges, and diamond models as well, subscribe to open models, basically where a per output charge is not payable to achieve open access. So in terms of applying to the ring-fenced fund, UKRI funds institutions. So it's the research organization that must make the application to UKRI. And that means any UK-based research organization, anyone who can apply to UKRI for a research grant can apply to this fund, essentially. And in extenuating circumstances, we may pay a publisher directly. So that could be, for example, where there is no research organization or the researcher is based overseas, and it's not possible to go via their previous organization. So it should be the research organization. But we do recognize that while it's the research organization that makes the application to UKRI, there's a very important role that the author and the publisher fulfill in the application. The author in particular is a key agent, because that is the individual that has the relationship with the research organization and that with the publisher. And the publisher is the entity that has most of the information about the publication timescales, the expected costs, the model by which the publication is going to be published open access. So we do expect that the author will be working closely with the research organization and their publisher in order to actually for an application to be made to the fund. Now, what is the fund itself? We're taking a slightly novel approach. We are going to have a two-stage process. At stage 1, the research organization registers an output with UKRI for funding. At this point, the author and the organization is seeking confirmation that the output is in fact in scope of the policy and eligible to be supported. If the output is not eligible to be supported by the fund, it is likely out of scope of the policy or being supported by the block grant, or there might be some error in the application. We would work through with you to address that issue. We've done it in this way because we know that books are contracted and a legal contract is signed. So the author and the organization need assurance that the output will be supported, the costs will be paid via UKRI's fund before they enter into said agreement. And then at stage 2, we want the organization to supply evidence that the output is available open access. And then at that point, UKRI will release the funds to the organization. It is possible to collate multiple applications into multiple publications into stage 1 and stage 2 applications, both if the organization chooses to. This is not a requirement. This is so that organizations can determine their workflows as appropriate. And then this is just a summary table to understand the differences between stage 1 and stage 2. And when we circulate the link in the slides, you'll be able to look through this as well. Now, a key tenet of what makes a publication in scope of our policy is the relationship to UKRI funding. In fact, it is in the policy itself that the policy only applies to publications that are required to acknowledge that funding. So we've published this information on our implementing our policy page that successful applications will need to demonstrate a link to UKRI funding. And this means that there must be a link between the author and the UKRI funded project. So for example, the author must have worked on the project and the publication should be the outcome of that project. So for example, it might discuss the outcome, discuss the findings of the research that the researcher conducted on that UKRI project, or the UKRI funding must have enabled the author to actually write the output, so paying for the research time essentially. If this link does not exist or cannot be evidenced, then we would say that this output is out of scope of the policy. And I've just included the slide here so you can see the sort of information that we'll be looking for. So we would expect this information to be provided for each publication that is included in an application. So in terms of how to apply, we are going to open this form on our website from autumn 2023, and organizations will be able to start making stage 1 applications at this time. We are going to test the application form before it goes live, and we are going to provide guidance. So there will be a process of iteration with our stakeholders before everything goes live. And now I'll just hand it back to Sarah on the next steps.
Thanks, Tahir. So just moving on to the next slide. Thank you. So next steps in terms of our funding. So before the applications go live, we will be publishing the terms and conditions of the fund, and this will clarify any additional rules. And we'll also be publishing some more information to support researchers and their organisations to apply to it, including when extenuating circumstances apply. More generally on policy implementation, we're also going to publish a guide on third-party materials, and we will also host a webinar aimed at researchers to help share information on the policy. In the longer term, we want to continue to support policy implementation, and there are some activities that UKRI are interested in understanding whether we could support further. So some examples include to support good practice for open access around peer review, as well as standards to aid discovery, preservation and quality assurance of open access publications. Next slide, please. And that's everything from us. Thank you for listening, and I'll hand back to Rachel.
Thank you very much, Tahir and Sarah. So now we can move on to the Q&A. I know there are a number of questions in the chat, and just to remind you, we will try and answer as many as possible, but if we can't cover them all, we'll come back to questions as I say afterwards with a link to the materials from the event. I've seen lots of people asking about, are the slides going to be available? Yes, and the recording, and we'll also give any response to issues that are raised that we haven't been able to address in the discussion. So just as Emma, who is moderating the questions, is gathering ones to put to us. I'm just going to highlight a few that came in to us as people were registering. As I say, people did actually put their issues in the registration forms, and I will put those to Sarah and to here. But one I will take, which is around funding. So, and I've seen also there are other questions around this that have been raised. So, will the fund have any limits? For example, is there a maximum book processing charge that UKRI will fund? So in terms of the way in which, and this is one of the points that we're finalising at the moment with the fund, but yes, it will not be unlimited. So what we are doing at the moment is trying to assess what are reasonable levels for us to set. Some people like to use the term cap. I wouldn't use the term cap because we're not actually limiting the charge that a publisher may charge. Rather, what we will be looking at is what is a reasonable level for UKRI to contribute to make the outputs of the research open access. So we envisage that we will have a set level for a BPC model, and that we will also have a level that can work with non-BPC models and membership models, so those kind of more subscribe to open diamond models. And we will also have a limit for book chapters. And at the moment, we're just finalising that, and obviously we'll make people aware as soon as possible of those levels. So overall, I hope that's sort of clear in terms of our general approach. And obviously what we are doing is basing that on the evidence that there is to make sure that the contribution that we're making is a reasonable contribution. And also that we get good value for money from the public fund. What with the fund overall and the 3.5 million that has been earmarked, we recognise that the data in the monograph and long form space is quite challenging to get an accurate picture. So I'm turning my video off because the internet is unstable here. So in that regard, what we'll be doing is monitoring the expenditure, and obviously if outputs are in scope, then we will need to make sure that we're able to support those outputs. But we need to look at the patterns as we go and monitor the expenditure overall. So I hope that that answers that particular issue. I see, as I say, there were other questions around that coming up in the chat. And another one that was raised beforehand, which I wonder if Tahir or Sarah can respond to, which was around scope. So please, could you clarify the open access rules for translations, both academic and popular? Tahir, are you able to take that?
Yes, so we understand that translations can fall into a number of scopes. Sometimes they might be more like a scholarly edition, in other cases they might be more monographic. So what we would say on that is, if it's more like a monograph, then it's what would be in scope of the policy. If it's less like a monograph, more like a scholarly edition or a derivative work of another author's work, then it would be out of scope of the policy. So on that, we do give definitions in our policy annexes on what is in scope and a list of things that are out in scope. So it would be a case of applying your discretion for what your translation falls into and following the policy according to that.
And also, actually, there was another point which kind of relates to what I was talking about previously. But Tahir, I know there was another question about applications and will the number be limited in terms of the number of applications one author can make? What would you say to that?
There would not be a limit on the number of publications per author. So for example, if you published 2 book chapters, you can't publish a third. That would not be the case. If the publication is in scope of the policy, we would endeavour to support it via our fund.
Okay, thank you. I hope the internet is going to hold up. So maybe I should have made my way into Swindon and joined Emma and Tahir. Okay, I think then with that, Emma, what questions have we got?
Yeah, so I think one question we've had is, are Creative Commons licenses a must? If a publisher allows AAMs with a 12-month embargo but not a license, will this meet the policy?
So, Sarah, would you like to take that one?
Yeah, I can take that. Can you hear me okay? Yeah.
Yep.
So the policy requires Creative Commons license. So a CC BY is preferred to maximize opportunity for sharing and reuse, but other Creative Commons licenses are permitted. And an open government license is also permitted if you're subject to Crown copyrights.
So I think in terms of the particular question, it is CC BY license that is required. And I would think that within the policy with the that should be feasible. I don't know if the questioner on that issue wants to say anything further about any of your concerns in the Q&A around that. Please do if you'd like to. So Emma, what's the next question that you want to put to us?
Yeah, I can speak to that one a little bit. So on the 2-stage,
by the way, so
oh, sorry, should I repeat that? So we've been asked to repeat the bit about the 2-stage process for funding, particularly clarify when the funds will be released.
okay, thanks Tahir.
Yes, so on the 2-stage process, the application forms will open up on in autumn, not April, autumn 2023. And that's the point at which research organizations can make the stage 1 application. We are looking at when we are working with the grants teams in UKRI to see what the payment schedules would look like and what that timetable will look like, and we will communicate that in advance.
Thank you.
I hope that answers.
Thanks. So Emma, is there another one you want? I know there's lots in the I can see there's quite a few.
Yeah, sorry, just working my way through all the questions. And my screen has frozen. So again, we've had a query about, will there be a limit per organisation? Tahir, do you want to answer that one?
No, there would not be a limit per organisation. We recognise that there's a great diversity of research organisations. Some are very research intensive, some are more teaching focused. So there will be a huge range of the research outputs that are in scope of the policy that the different organisations will produce. So we're not seeking to limit anyone's access to the fund.
I would also say there's one thing I noted that's sort of related to that in the Q&A, which was, can organisations that don't receive the block grant, do they have access to the fund? Yes. So every eligible research organisation has access to the fund. So those research organisations that receive UKRI funding have access to the fund. And as I think Tahir pointed out in her presentation, and then there are also issues that we foresee could arise where an author has left a research organisation, and we will still put in place the ability for in-scope outputs to be supported, but in those cases would be supporting probably a direct invoice payment to a publisher or however the output is being published open access. So one of the key considerations around the fund for this is the fact that you are not working at the same sort of scale as you are with research articles and journal publications, hence why a block grant worked out on an algorithmic basis is not applicable and workable in this situation. That's why it's on the basis that we've got, an application basis, but that application process would be open to all research organisations that receive our funding, and it is not connected whatsoever to block grant organisations.
Thanks, Rachel. Another question we've had is, if an output is out of scope for funding, is there no requirement under the policy that it is made OA?
Sarah or Tahir, do you want to take that? Sarah?
So if it's not eligible for the fund, then it falls out of the scope of the policy. So we don't have a situation where it's in policy, so it has to be compliant with the policy, but we won't fund it. So if I've understood the question properly.
That's what I understood it to be, Sarah. So yes. Yeah. And there was another question I spotted sort of in line with that, which was around training grants. And so whilst we don't mandate that those open access are outputs are made open access, and we encourage it, would the author stroke research organisation be able to apply to the fund if they were making that output open access? Yes, indeed, they would be able to. We wouldn't have a situation where we would encourage an output to be open access and not see it as eligible for the fund. It's just not mandated that all outputs need to be open access. Emma, next question.
Yeah. Thanks, Rachel. Another question we've had is, if an author is publishing January-December 24, but hasn't included OA costs in their grant application, can they apply to the ring fence fund?
I'm happy to take that one. So if you are you're publishing in December 2024 or January?
Between January and December 24.
Okay. Yes, you can apply to the fund because the applications will be open from autumn 2023 to facilitate that.
Great. Thank you, Tahir. We've had one query about, is there a time limit between when an application is approved and when the monograph chapter is published? It can take years sometimes to publish a monograph, which can cross financial years.
I'm happy to take that one as well, but I expect Sarah and Rachel, you might pipe in there as well. So yes, we've we've designed the fund specifically because we, in the way that we have, because we understand that there's a long time frame between a contract being signed, output being written, and actually the output going into production and actually appearing as a published output, which is why we allow the application to start actually before the output itself is written. And so when UKRI will fund would pay the open access cost would be when the output is actually available, so it would be retrospectively paid. So it can span multiple financial years, and that is perfectly acceptable to UKRI, and we have designed a fund around to be able to support that.
Thanks, Tahir. We've had a follow-up on the training grant question, Rachel. To establish further detail, a student who has passed their UKRI funded doctorate and left the organisation can apply to the monograph fund for open publication. Would this be one of the direct invoice payments mentioned?
Yes, I believe so. But Emma, correct me, but I would say yes to that. That's my answer.
Possibly, or if there is an organisation that we could pay, then it might be more suitable for them to make the application.
But it would fall into one of those cases. Yeah. Okay, great. Thank you.
Sorry, just scrolling through the questions at the moment. I think, would it be possible to go into a little more detail about the ring fence fund and our plans to ensure that that is sufficient?
The amount of funding,
yeah.
I think that one might be for Rachel, actually.
Yeah, so I tried to cover that as we started the Q&A session, so sorry if I wasn't very clear. So essentially that level of funding, so 3.5 million that has been earmarked, that is earmarked on the basis of our analysis of outputs, but we recognise that the data in this space is quite challenging, and actually that it can vary in terms of what data you're looking at, etc., etc. So we do recognise that we could be in a situation where, in actual fact, further funds are required. So our position is that we are working with a 3.5 million earmarked fund at the current time. However, we will continuously monitor the patterns and the levels, and if outputs are in scope, we will support those via a fund, and that may of course mean in some cases that we need to go beyond the 3.5 million, and we will have to manage that and work it out internally. But our intention is to monitor, keep a close eye, and we are not saying 3.5 million, that's run out, you don't have access. What we're saying is, we've based on our analysis so far, this seems to be a reasonable allocation, and if outputs are in scope and we need further resources, then we will seek to make those available. I hope that makes sense. So we're not tying the amount of applications to that earmark level at this time.
Great, thanks, Rachel. We've just had one question asking for a bit of clarity. So after a successful stage 2 application, does UKRI pay the publisher's invoice directly or reimburse the institution following payment?
So I can take that one. So just to clarify, it's the research organisation who applies, so it is the research organisation that UKRI would pay.
And we've also had a number of questions about funding for other models than BPCs. So is it possible to give a little bit more information about diamond models and the funding, how the funding might work for those?
Again, I tried to cover that as we started at the Q&A. So we heard throughout our consultation and the development of the policy that it was extremely important in terms of sustainability of these outputs and the range of publishers, as well as affordability and the sort of diverse ecosystem that people wanted to maintain, to make sure that a range of different models could be supported. So we have tried hard to think about how we can do that within some of the constraints that you might have with accounting rules. And we have managed to work it out that we can support non-BPC models. And so what I will say is we will support those models. We will be making available more information about to what level and how that might operate. We would not, for example, it would not be eligible to have a membership fee claimed for from the UKRI fund for a particular year if in that year there was not a UKRI output associated with that membership fee. If there is a UKRI output associated with that membership fee, then it would be within scope of the application process for the fund. I won't go into more details than that, but just to say that we will be making further information available but it obviously has to have a direct relationship to a UKRI output to operate. And as I said earlier, we're also working out the suitable sorts of levels to ensure that the way in which the fund operate, it also incentivises the use of non-BPC models, which can be far more economical and affordable for research organisations, and also operate a far more open ecosystem for these types of outputs. I hope that's enough for now. That's about all I can say. I don't know if Sarah or Tahir want to add anything.
No? Okay, brilliant, thank you. We've had a query. Some large institutions like ourselves, UCL, may have up to 100 applications a year, and we're concerned that this will lead to a considerable administrative and financial overhead. Does UKRI recognise this concern with a central fund as opposed to block grants?
Recognise, we've heard the concern from I think 1 or 2 places. But you know, our position stands that overall with the system, because we have to work across the system, this approach is the most workable approach. Clearly we'll, you know, look at how things are working, and we've made that commitment in both the articles policy to take a bit of a light touch review 2 years since that policy start date, and we've also got that commitment for this policy, and you know, we'll hope as far as possible that we can ensure those burdens are reduced, and also I think what we will do, I think Tahir mentioned that we want to do some user testing with the form and the process, so we will make sure we've got a range of different research organisations working with us on that testing as well. Is that, Sarah, do you have anything to add to that?
No, not really. I was just going to say about the monitoring and evaluation. Obviously, we want our policy to be as easy as possible to implement, but it is within certain limits, and those are the things that we'll be interested in terms of monitoring and evaluation.
And I would just say, Jennifer has just put something in the chat, which of course we said we weren't monitoring, but I've got it open in front of me, to say that there are also implications and burdens for smaller organisations. And yeah, we do recognise that, and in particular that there are not necessarily the teams and the systems in place to support. So again, another issue to keep an eye on. And I think also what we would intend to do there is make sure that there's helpful advice and guidance to support smaller institutions, which are dealing with, I suppose, spreading the load across less roles, etc., within their organisations. Emma, what's the next question?
Thanks, Rachel. So we have a question. We are considering an institutional approach of encouraging the self-archiving route to OA for long-form outputs, with paid publisher OA used only for situations when self-archiving will not fulfil the policy. Does this align with your intended approach?
I'm not sure I caught the question. I don't know if if Graham, Sarah, or Tahir did. So
I can read the question again. So we are considering an institutional approach of encouraging the self-archiving route to OA for long-form outputs, with paid publisher OA used only for situations when self-archiving will not fulfil the policy. Does this align with your intended approach?
Yes. I think the only thing I would say on that is that we are agnostic to how you comply with the policy. We are concerned with the end result. So if self-archiving the policy results in an open access manuscript that is available within 12 months of publication with a Creative Commons or open government license, then yes, that would meet UKRI's policy aims.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. We've had quite a lot of questions about when we will give the funding to research organisations. So things like, are you expecting the research organisation to pay the publisher, then claim the money back? And what about where publishers expect payment pre-publication?
I can go, yeah, I can cover that one. So yes, we can only pay after the cost has been accrued. That is how we function as an organisation, because this would be a single payment that we make for an output. So we're not able to exercise other mechanisms like we do usually for research grants, where we pay in instalments. There are no instalments. So yes, it would only be afterwards, that after an open access version is available, that we would make the payment to the research organisation, who would pay the publisher. So it would be for the institution to, I guess, discuss with their publisher.
Yeah, great, thanks to hear. Rachel, we've asked, could you say a little more about the cap you mentioned? Will this be set at a value per output type or a percentage of the amount paid?
Number one, I didn't mention the word cap. I said I wouldn't apply cap. So because I say that just because there seems to be some perceptions that once the word cap is used, there's a perception that you're actually putting a cap on price, which what we're doing is actually outlining the limits for the amount or the maximum contribution that we would make towards those outputs being open access. All I'll say at this time is that we are basing it on the best evidence that we have. That's all I can really say, and you know, we will soon make the details available as soon as we have to go through our internal governance and approval before we can make that available.
Thanks, Rachel. Another question we've had is, would there be any visual workflow guidance regarding stage 1 and stage 2? Sometimes easier to engage grant holders with a visual process workflow.
We can certainly look into producing something of that sort and making that available. Similarly to how we have made an information pack available, if stakeholders would find that helpful.
Great, thank you. Sorry, we've had quite a lot of questions in. I will have a look. So we've had a query about, will there be compliance reporting requirement for institutions? Presumably not, if stage 2 involves confirming that the output is open access.
Sarah,
Yeah,
do you
I
want
can
to
take.
that?
Yeah, so our on compliance, we want to keep reporting as minimal as possible. So so we're kind of looking at using existing data and data that UKRI holds, and in terms of the kind of scale, we're interested at the research organisation level and sort of broad patterns. So we're not going to be drilling down into every single kind of article level or long form publication. We're just interested in where it seems if a research organisation has a sort of low level of compliance, we would then kind of do some investigative work and talk to that research organisation to try and understand the reasons for that and try and work with them to address any issues there might be. Of course, there might be issues on our side with the policy, so we're just really trying to figure out what the problem is and what the solutions might be. And then we wouldn't, any sort of sanctions or anything like that would be a last resort after taking those other steps.
Thanks, Sarah. We've also had a question. Oh, sorry, Rachel.
No, it's fine. One thing I was just going to say, if that's okay, Emma, which is I'm just looking at some of the traffic in the chat around the fund and also organisations and how they operate and manage that. And I just wondered, this is maybe a little bit sorry if this is a bit unfair, Anna, Graham and Caroline, but I wondered whether that might be a sort of issue that Jisc could potentially facilitate some discussions with research organisations about how they are managing their funds and interacting with the fund, just so people can exchange solutions that they found, like Valerie's come up with her solution. I just wondered whether that could maybe form part of your institutional engagement support work.
I was actually just about to pipe up to suggest something along those lines, actually, Rachel. And it would be good at some stage, once we've formulated some potential recommendations, to also bring in BUFDOG. So that's the British Universities Finance Directors Group as well, because I think if we can come up with some solutions, then it would be good to make finance directors aware of those as well.
Okay, that's brilliant. So let's make a commitment to that. I think that would be really useful, and for us to take into account the sort of specialist small institutions and the larger institutions and how they operate within that, and of course all the ones in the middle that end up sometimes not. Yeah, so okay, fantastic, thank you very much. Right, Emma, next question.
Thanks Rachel. So we've had a question: how is the policy and fund supporting authors with third-party copyright clearances? Should institutions be involved with this process?
Yes, institutions we imagine would be involved in this process. Tahir, do you want to?
Yeah, I think so it really depends on the organisation, because some organisations already do offer that support and others may not as much. In terms of funding, it is in fact permissible to apply for third-party costs for clearing permissions in your grant applications, and there is practice of that as well, which we have seen.
Thank you. Sarah, we've had another monitoring question. So will you use Research Fish as a way to determine what long-form outputs have been published and then check which of these are compliant and liaise with institutions? Or is the onus on the institution to try and monitor long-form publications, as we as research organisations have a responsibility for compliance? I can't see how we could monitor in the way we can with journal articles. Yeah,
no, I totally understand that it's a different landscape for monographs, and there's the data is not as available for articles. In terms of how we will monitor, that's still something that we're working through. So we are developing a monitoring and evaluation framework that's going to, so there's kind of 3 elements to that. So the first is the impacts of the policy. So is the policy working as we expect it? Is it achieving what we wanted it to? The second element is on compliance, which your question relates to, and then the third is funding assurance. So the framework will cover those 3 areas, and then it will talk about how we expect to monitor underneath those 3 headings. So it's still, the details are still being worked out, and we're working with some external consultants as well to help inform that. But in terms of the onus, that would be UKRI to, there may be some reporting requirements for the impact side of things, but anything we do would be light touch and low burden as possible. I don't know if anyone else has anything to add.
No, I think,
or if I missed it.
I think that covers it, Sarah.
Okay.
Thanks, Sarah. Another question is, if an author fails to contact us at stage 1, will we be unable to claim any costs?
No. The point of the stage 1 and stage 2 is that you could in effect go straight to a stage 2, and again we're going to have to monitor how this is looking. Really, point 1 is to give an opportunity for some level of assurance and some level of planning for all parties, i.e. the research organisation, publisher, and UKRI. But we know that things change over time, and also that this is a new space where the relationships within organisations are forming and changing. So we know we're going to have flexibility. Not too sure our grants management colleagues are that happy about it, but we're going to have to work with that flexibility. So no, it doesn't.
Thanks, Rachel. We've had a question. Diamond seems to be a new thing. Is diamond additional to green and gold and focused on long form?
I wonder whether to pass that over to Graham.
Yeah, no problem. Diamond isn't exclusive to books. Diamond is really a category of gold. But people assume these days that gold is payment of an APC and BPC. Diamond is essentially the open access version of the published work, which does not require an author payment or a reader payment. So when we say diamond, we're describing things like the subscribe to open or the membership agreements, but it's actually equally applicable to articles, and is being used increasingly. But it's there are so many different colors of OA now. It's easy to miss new ones as they appear.
Thanks, Graham. So we've had quite a few queries about so what if the UKRI funded author has left the institution and wanted to publish a monograph? Which institution would they apply to for funding? Only one with the UKRI open access block grant or their new institution?
I'm a little confused by the question, actually, because the monograph has nothing to do with the block grant. But Emma, I think you know more than anyone else about this. Is general practice is that the publication costs are applied for via the grant holding institution.
There isn't that link with the monographs fund, so they can apply through their current institution. It doesn't need to be the institution that originally held the grant that the publication is an output from. They need to be somewhere that we can pay, which is the key thing. So just looking through the questions. So we've had a query: if a researcher has already included publication costs in their grant application, but publishes after the 1st of January 2024, should they use their grant or make an application to the Ring Fence Fund? And then any unspent grant funding is reclaimed by UKRI if relevant.
Emma, you can probably take that.
So if you have applied for this funding as part of your grant, the intention would be that you would use that funding first if the publication is happening during the lifetime of your grant.
Okay.
Sarah, a question for you. Related to the issue of monitoring, could you say a bit more about UKRI guidance on metadata recommendations requirements that publishers will need to follow?
For long form, so our policy doesn't have any, obviously we sort of encourage metadata, some standards, but we don't have any requirements in our policy for long form at the moment, because our assessment is that the landscape isn't quite ready for that. Whereas for research articles, we have technical requirements for repositories and journals, and you can find that on our website, and we're doing some work at the moment to help understand how to practically implement those and guide the activities of different stakeholders that are responsible for implementing those technical requirements. But that's very much focused on articles at the moment. But as we sort of said at the end of the presentation, we are kind of considering where UKRI might support some more sort of supporting infrastructure, but that work is still to be determined in terms of what the shape of that would be. I don't know if Rachel has anything else to add.
I think Thanks, Sarah. I think overall we recognise, you know, there's emerging best practice, and we're already engaged in discussions, as I'm sure many here are, with the standards around long form. And so really our premise was always that we won't put requirements in the policy at this point, but we will engage in those developments and make an assessment and learn as we go, and introduce requirements when it's the right time to do so. And obviously, you know, we are seeing things like the OARPN services, and some funders do say everything should be registered in the directory of open access books, etc. So I can see that things are moving in that direction, and we will introduce things at the right time, and also would like to really, I think, build up understanding and best practice working in collaboration with stakeholders throughout the first couple of years of the policy.
Great, thanks, Rachel. Another question we've had is the guidance regarding author exemptions at Annex 3 of the UKRI Open Access Policy clear? What does appropriate publisher mean?
So I think the question is referring specifically to the exemption where the only appropriate publisher for a publication is not able to offer an open access program. And in that case, we actually do provide a list of things that it's not an exhaustive list of things, but we do provide some characteristics that would make us a publisher the only appropriate one for a publication. So one example is where a publisher is the only sponsor, host, or publishing partner of a conference, and the publication that the UKRI funded author is writing is an intended output offset conference. So that publisher is not able to offer an open access program, then it would be then the exemption may be used. So we do provide guidance on that.
Yeah, it is a challenge. We recognise that, and as we were developing the policy, it was some debate in the steering committee about whether or not to allow that exemption, because it could because of, you know, the difficulties there can be in interpretation. But on balance, it was agreed that we should maintain it, although clearly it's only in absolutely exceptional circumstances. And so based on expert advice and consultation with the sector, we've developed that high level set of guidance, but it really, yeah, hopefully, as Tahir says, it outlines some of the kind of considerations and characteristics that an organisation should consider when making that decision. We would expect in most cases there will be an appropriate publisher that can publish open access.
Great, thanks, Rachel. What will researchers do if their publication costs are higher than the cap agreed by UKRI? Can authors apply for an exemption?
Sorry, could you repeat that question, Emma?
Yes, of course. What will researchers do if their publication costs are higher than the cap agreed by UKRI? Can authors apply for an exemption?
No, authors will not be able to apply for an exemption. The fund will be set in terms of what is considered reasonable.
Thank you. So some publishers offer immediate gold OA and delayed gold OA, where both are offered and the delay is within the permitted time frame. Is UKRI's preference for immediate OA?
It is a preference for immediate OA, but again, because my internet's a bit weird, I'm not sure I caught the whole of the question.
Okay. No problem.
Yeah, did you catch it all?
Yes, and I think you have answered it. Can you go back just to make sure?
Yes.
Yes, UKRI's preference is for immediate open access, and that is how we envisage our fund to work as well, so it's to support immediate open access.
Thank you.
Thank you. And also questions about, will we be sharing a recording of the webinar? So Tahir is nodding, so yes, we will. Sorry, Rachel.
No, Emma, carry on. Sorry, have you others, or do you feel we've covered most of them?
We've got quite a lot of questions, but I think some of them we'll cover perhaps in some answers that we can provide afterwards.
Okay, is there anything else that you think we should pick up, or have we?
I think we've covered pretty much everything, and we've got a good list of questions that we need to respond on.
Okay, so with that, then we're a little bit ahead of time, which is probably good. I don't know if I just give the opportunity for Tahir and Sarah to raise any observations from the discussion, or anything further you'd like to raise in terms of, you know, things going forward. And if not, we will be able to take a break. Anything you'd like to raise, Sarah or Tahir?
Not from me, thank you.
I just wanted to thank everyone who has sent questions in, because this is really useful to hear about what sort of questions everyone in the community has. And the good news is that these are all things that we're already thinking about, and we are working internally to clarify all of them. Yes, thank you very much. And I think we've tried to cover as much as many of the questions as we've been able to so far. And where we haven't, we're clarifying things internally before we can publish the response.
Yeah. Okay, so thank you very much, and yeah, thank you for the couple of comments saying that that was helpful, and again, thank you to all of you, because it is really useful to hear the sort of you know, themes around concerns, and often there are things that we might have clocked them, but we haven't put an action in place. And there we go, live, we've put an action in place, and we're going to have Jisc is going to facilitate discussions, and also with buffer dogs, so that's fantastic. Okay, so we can have a nice break and come back at 11:30, where we will hear from Anna Vernon about the Jisc activities, and also have time for some more discussion. Thank you so much, and see you shortly. Let's just wait a couple, well, maybe a minute. See if more people sign on.
In the meantime, Rachel, shall I upload my slides if I'm on next?
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm going to turn my video off again. This internet's really bad.
Okay, hopefully you can see my slides.
Yeah, that seems to be working.
Excellent.
So perhaps we should start then. So welcome back everyone for the second part of the webinar. So we will now hear from Anna Vernon from Jisc, and she will cover the Jisc activities and the work that Jisc is doing to support open access for monographs, book chapters and edited collections. And whilst some of that is in direct support of our policy, it's obviously part and parcel of what Jisc also do more broadly. Anna, over to you.
Thank you, Rachel. So I'm going to be providing a brief update on the work that Jisc has been doing to support the implementation of the UKRI open access policy for long form publications, and to touch upon some of our plans going forward. So I'll be talking about our objectives, achievement, and some of the engagement we've already started. And I haven't added engagement around workflows, finances and engagement with finance directors yet, but we'll definitely add that to our list now. So we know that there's been growing numbers of monographs published open access. In 2017 we were around 10,000 books, OA books, and that's already increased to 34,000 OA books. And so it's a strategic objective for Jisc anyway, but we're particularly keen, as Rachel mentioned, to support UKRI in the implementation of its policy and to support institutions in being able to manage that and to support you in doing that. So our objectives have been validated by a recent survey we've undertook with research organisations, and essentially they're looking for Jisc to negotiate good value agreements to help them navigate the complexity of the ebooks landscape and to promote a diversity of models, and finally to deliver Sherpa for books. I'll talk a bit about Sherpa for books now, and then I'll talk a bit more about our objectives. So Sherpa is already part of the existing Sherpa UI enhancement project, and that's in a discovery beta phase. You can see if you go onto the Sherpa UI that there's already a placeholder for Sherpa for books, and that will be updated with further project information in June, and will demo and consult on ebooks OA books related features as soon as those outputs become available. I'm sure many of you are on the user groups for Sherpa anyway, and we'll hear about those. And our objectives are to put in place affordable and sustainable routes for publish in compliance with the policy, with a real emphasis on bibliodiversity. And so we've been deliberately format agnostic. You know, we're not wedded to a particular model, but we are very focused on value, really, in recognition that this is public funds, and in recognition of the financial constraints that institutions are under. So we're also putting in place mechanisms, both from Jisc's end in terms of the agreements that we strike. Those have a reporting requirements built into them, so we can monitor the performance of those agreements, not in terms of how much OA they're delivering, the costs and other metrics as well. And we're continuing to engage with international partners to support the alignment and interoperability of community-owned infrastructure and also monographs policies. So far, we've negotiated 13 monograph agreements, and I've had to hastily edit my reference to Diamond here and amend that to under collective funding publication models. And we've used the REF 2021 submission data to drive the negotiations that we've prioritised, and the research fish data. And we've deliberately taken a two-pronged approach. So we've prioritised those smaller society publishers, as well as working with the top 5. So those top 5 make up 50% of the ref submissions, and 45% of those recorded in Research Fish. But there is that long tail of over 50 publishers, which is a mix of university presses and commercial publishers. Our current round of our open access community framework is prioritising not-for-profit community-based monographs agreements, whisper it, Diamond, in order to kind of build up support and resilience, really, for those often very small infrastructure and publishers. And we're partnering a lot with overseas partners, including Lyrasis, to try and meet those collective funding goals with it for those publishers, so that we're not just relying on UK support, that we're trying to broaden that support. We note that there was in the library feedback that we had, there was a strong interest in green compliant routes, but also concerns around the costs of book processing charge models. And we're partnered, and those have been touched upon today. And so we really want to work with publishers to understand those costs and to put in place reasonable agreements that meet UKRI's thresholds, but sorry, I shouldn't use the word thresholds, but that support compliance. So we're partnering with networks and projects such as COPEN, Open Books Future, and Open Access Books Network, and collaborating, as I said, with Lyrasis, Diamas, Palomera and Koala in Germany. So far, we've contributed to UKRI updated guidance and FAQs around monographs, UKRI roundtables, stakeholder forums and monitoring and evaluation, convening and supporting communities. A lot of you will already be on our Teams communities, including information sharing and etc. opinion via blogs and the Jisc website. And there's been phenomenal attendance at our myth-busting webinars. So there's 3 of those with 750 participants. The first one looked at compliance versus culture. Second was on quality and prestige. And the third was on third-party rights clearance. So if you go to our website, there's write-ups of those sessions, and as well as sessions on open access books. So apologies, I can't see my screen. The first session was with publishers, the second was with libraries, and the third is TBC. Perhaps Graham and Caroline can talk a bit more to that. And I should also give a shout out to the OARP and OA Books toolkit that colleagues have been contributing to and currently revising. And that has strong representation from publishers, institutions and infrastructure providers. And I understand that that's currently being revised to look at the open access books policy landscape within the European research area. So I wanted to touch upon our engagement and all of the work that Anna Hughes, mainly Anna Hughes and colleagues, have been doing to work with you to, capture your concerns and gather an understanding of those concerns, but also to talk about the policy and suggested collective solutions around shared problems. So we've had phenomenal engagement so far, and we'll continue to monitor and to build engagement and support and communities. And I also wanted to highlight this timeline that looks at our key activities. So we're continuing the advice and guidance, and I think that should probably be a theme running throughout. as well as our negotiations and supporting communities and convening those communities as well. In, I think it's July, we're planning on announcing the metadata infrastructure report, and colleagues can talk a bit more about that, as well as releasing more data and reporting, including requirements and Sherpa for books. And that's it from me, and I'm going to hand over to colleagues to answer any questions. I'm sure there's quite a few.
Yeah, there's been quite a few, and there's also been ones for Jisc in the UKRI Q&A. So hopefully we've answered those, and if not, as it said in the chat, we'll get back to you outside of this webinar. The first one here is regarding Jisc and publisher engagement. So will there be guidance on what publishers offer CC BY on chapter AAMs for UKRI funded authors, like which ones are supportive of this route, basically?
I'm going to attempt to answer, being the least qualified in the room to answer, really. I think our aim is obviously as open as possible, as close as necessary. I think that's the mantra of open access, really, isn't it? So we'd want to work with publishers to have licenses that are as permissive as possible, really. As Rachel and Tahir were explaining, you know, it's quite a liberal policy, and so but we'd want to work within the spirit of open access and be as open as possible.
You mind if I quickly come in there as well, Anna, just to say that you mentioned Sherpa and the developments for Sherpa. We're in discussion about what Sherpa for books would contain, but we would hope that it would include information where publishers have what their author accepted manuscript policy or author archiving policy, publishers often call it, and others. There is information on most publisher websites. Certainly the top 20 publishers have information. It can be quite within certain sections of the website. So we would hope that's something that Sherpa could bring to the front as well.
There's a question around Sherpa and usability. So from a usability standpoint, it would be great to have a Sherpa widget to embed into a website. Is this something that's being worked on? I think we'll have to reach out to our Sherpa team on that one and get back to you. So that'll be answered offline. There's a very nice one in here, which I promise is not a plant. What would UKRI and us do without Jisc? It's definitely not a plant. So I don't think there's any sort of any more questions that are specific for Jisc, unless there's ones that I've missed further back in the chat. And there's a new one that's come in that's not related to us, UKRI colleagues. If you want me to read that one out.
Yes, go ahead, Anna.
Okay, brilliant. So beyond long form publications, the new policy also includes the point that OA funds will no longer be eligible for use on publications in TJ's transformative journals. Sorry. Is there any additional information about this or anything important to know?
I know that Coalition S will be publishing its the last year's TJ results, and so that will also state which TJs currently qualify. We're continuing to negotiate compliant routes, and as of I think 91.4% of a UKRI funded output is kind of compliant and eligible. So you know, we continue to work on that remaining 8-point-something% of UKRI output, but we've done some analysis, and the transitional journals are already on the whole covered by TJs anyway. So TJs in some effects is gold plating what we're already doing, so it provides a backstop, but we've done some modelling, and you know, the withdrawal or otherwise of journals from TJs will not make a material I think there's one title and a couple of articles that may be affected, but really, we've got very, very high coverage in those journals and for our agreements. Sorry, that was a really long response.
Thanks, Anna. There's another question coming around Sherpa's books and the time frame. We don't have that as yet. So again, we'll reach out to our Sherpa team and respond offline to that question. Oh, here's one for us. So did I understand that you've arranged book publishing contracts with 13 commercial publishers? And how do these work? And how will they impact on the funding routes outlined previously?
So the agreements work as they do with all Jisc negotiated agreements, really. And so they're opt-in. Institutions can evaluate those. We've undertaken some evaluation ourselves, which we share with institutions. And so we've already done that for institutions prior to them evaluating the agreement. So hopefully they'll find those attractive, and that UKRI funded authors can also benefit from those. And then you could use the ring fence fund to support those agreements as well. So it's very much in addition to, but also supporting the policy. So we have prioritised those venues where we believe UKRI funded authors will publish in based on the REF and the research fish data. And that tends to be quite stable. But at the same time, we need to make those agreements as attractive as possible for institutions.
A few more questions around Sherpa, but again, I'll just sort of refer to my previous answer. We'll answer those offline when we've spoken to our Sherpa team. Okay, so given
because I'd just be interested, because I might not catch them otherwise.
Sorry, I missed that, Rachel.
What are the Sherpa questions?
There is they're just around how frequently will it be updated? Just general questions around time frame. When will it be live?
Okay,
But yeah, we'll talk to our Sherpa team around
sorry,
that.
everything's so slow on my.
No problem. Where was I? Okay, so yeah, given your initial conversations with the more commercial book publishers, do you get a feeling we will see compliant routes beyond BPCs emerging?
Yeah, that's our priority. Yeah, absolutely, because as the research has shown, if we pursue a BPC route, then the funds simply won't go far enough. So, we're really keen on exploring collective funding models and those non-BPC based models. So it's more sustainable, and that then allows us to collaborate with organisations such as Lyricists to pool funding and to try and meet those shared targets.
Anna, would you be able to say what Lyricist's objectives and goals are as an organisation, just to make sure everybody
Yeah, that's a very good point, Rachel. I'll probably make a hash of it, but they're very aligned with, similar to what Jisc do, really, but they work within the US. I'm hoping a colleague can thank you, Anna, for posting that. But essentially, they're a not-for-profit, and they work with university libraries in the US to partner and collaborate on shared infrastructure services, and to fundraise for initiatives like Scope 3 and for collective funding models. So they've launched a kind of sister program to the Open Access Community Framework.
Right, great, thank you so much.
Thank you.
So the questions are just jumping. There we go. So, sorry, bear with me. Okay, so is there a list of, I assume the questions referring to the 13 agreements, is there a list available somewhere? I don't know whether, Caroline, you could pop a link in the chat, maybe to LSM, if there is a list of those agreements available.
Yes, I'll find the link and pop that in the chat, or we can circulate it later.
Perfect, thank you. I'm just aware there's only 9 minutes left, so I will rush through these questions. Has Jisc been looking at agreements with book publishing platforms for universities to run their own university open access presses?
I'm going to hand over to Graham and Caroline for this one. Graham?
Well, I was going to say, Caroline, I don't know whether you want to give a brief description of the community framework and the three presses in that.
Yes, certainly. I mean, this year the OACF was launched. We had a webinar last week to launch the OACF for 2023. And as Anna mentioned, it was aimed just at monograph publishers this year as a way of sort of complementing the new UKRI policy. We've had 3 successful initiatives this year, or successful partners for this year. So there's University of Westminster Press, University of London Press, and also White Rose University Press. I think some of the publishers are on this call as well. We've got, again, I'll make links available to the catalogue pages, but institutions are able to help collectively fund their aims for the next 3 years. I think for University of London and University of Westminster presses, with the funding from institutions, they hope to publish an additional 3 titles open access per year, which they wouldn't otherwise be able to publish open access. So that will be, if we get full funding, that will be 9 new open access titles that will be made available via the OACF directly from UK institutions funding. White Rose University Press are offering an external author support scheme, which will help to publish 1 title per annum from a non-White Rose author. So that will be from an author based outside of Leeds, Sheffield or York universities. And that will all help to, you know, publish more open access book content.
Thanks, Caroline. This is a question more for UKRI. So will a Jisc mediated gold open access books agreement be an eligible cost for the books fund?
I think, hi Anna, I think we have made clear that we've got flexibility in terms of the model. So yes, that should be eligible, but always only eligible if there are UKRI outputs associated with it, and we will obviously make, as we've said, around the kind of levels of funding, make those available. Was that if I caught the question correctly?
So whoever wants to, whoever asked the question, if they want to give us a thumbs up and check that we've answered it correctly, or just pop in the chat that we've addressed it.
Just to note something, Anna, if I may, obviously for these gold OA books, diamond OA books agreements, yes, there's not necessarily guarantee. However, if step 1 of the process is followed, there's a very good possibility that you will know what books are. Now, you may not know the publication date, but as Rachel said, there could be a while between a proposal being accepted and a book being published. But step 1 actually allows that information to be gathered prior to publication. So you may well know that you have an author publishing a book with a particular publisher in advance. So that data will be out there, and you could use that as well.
Thanks, Brian. There's one question here. So is it possible that an author who needs to acknowledge funding, who's in scope of the policy, might not be aware of the OA fund? I think just in response to that, I don't know if UKRI wants to sort of obviously join in with both. Obviously, you know, we're working hard with key stakeholders to socialise the policy. Obviously, Anna covered in her presentation the sort of key engagement activities we've done so far and what we're planning to do over the next year or so. But I don't know if there's anything that UKRI wants to add to that.
I think we might also surface some issues when we're looking at the financial flows as well. So at what point does the research office know about the publications, and at what point does that information then flow to UKRI, etc.? But I think Tahir wants to come in now.
Yeah, just to give some assurance that we will be going out to research organisations, researchers in particular, writing to them as we did before the research article, so the policy came in, to inform them about the new open access requirement for these publications, and also letting them know about the fund as well.
And just to add to that, we are also working with the 9 UKRI organisations who will also be communicating about the policy through their networks. So yes, undoubtedly there will be situations where this occurs, but it's a change, and I think we really recognise how much of a change it is in terms of some of the relationships within organisations. It'll all come out in the wash eventually, I think.
Just very aware of the time, so no.
Yes. So I think, Anna, if it's okay, we should wrap up now.
Okay.
And any other questions that there might be, in the same way as with the other questions earlier, we'd be able to provide a response to participants with a link to the recording. Is that all okay? Yeah. So thank you so much to Anna, Graham and Caroline for that. It was really helpful to have the Jisc input there in terms of the work that's ongoing in that area and the direction of travel. I would like to thank, and I'm sorry that my video is not working, but there we go. It's just really creaking, this internet. So yeah, just like to thank all attendees for joining us. And again, thank you to all of my colleagues and Jisc colleagues that have presented. We will, as we've said many times, make the slides available, make the recording available, and also respond to the outstanding queries and questions, and share that with all participants. If you have any questions for Jisc, please do get in touch with, I think, would it be best to say Anna Hughes, or is there a general email? There we go. We've got an email address. Anna's put it in the chat. Thank you. And of course, we have our email address at UKRI, which is openresearch@ukri.org. So thank you very much. And I should just finally say, we are also looking at options to host a second event for colleagues who are not able to join us today. So we'll see logistically whether or not that is feasible. So thank you again. And I have to say that I'm looking forward to going on leave tomorrow, just in time for the thunderstorms as I go camping. What fun! Bad plan. I've been diligently looking at Cornwall weather, and it's getting worse and worse. So anyway, I hope you all have good weekends when you get there. I'm getting there early, so I'm looking forward to it, even if it is thundery. Cheerio all. Thank you.